Welcome to the Punting is Winning podcast. Just two fans talking all things Hawkeyes. Here are your hosts, JD and Keith.
Welcome back, Hawkeye fans, to Punting is Winning, the All-Iowa podcast. We are your hosts, Keith and JD. Welcome back for, week number 11 for football? Game number 10.
Mm-hmm.
We'll get into that in a minute. First things first, let's talk about the question of the week last week. Last week's question was, what was Iowa's record in November games? Because they typically are a much better team in November. Over the past 20 games.
Not
prior
counting
to Friday's game. And we did have some correct answers on that. The correct answer was 19-1. That one loss was in 2022 to Nebraska. 24-17. It was the game that DeJean and Petrus both got hurt.
That's right.
Yeah, that was. I think poor TJ Hall got his
introduction
to Big Ten football pretty quickly there, and
Mm-hmm.
they torched him pretty easily. If I remember right, didn't Nebraska have like a 20? It was a 24-0 lead or 24-7.
Yeah, and Iowa kind of fought back.
Yeah, and actually had a chance at the end. I think there was a catch along the sidelines that was ruled not a catch, but he was over the line or something. I don't remember. There was something that Padilla hit the guy on the sideline, but they didn't count it. And that essentially ended the ball game. That was on like third down or fourth down, maybe. Valiant effort to try to come back and get that thing in a position to be able to tie it, but that is the one loss in November over the last 20 games prior to Friday night. So yeah, let's walk into Friday night. I just don't know what it is about going out to the Rose Bowl, but since 1958, haven't won out there. 59, actually, January 59.
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is either. Rumor has it, and I don't know this for a fact, but rumor has it that they didn't show up till 6:10 on Thursday night. I would have thought that they would have wanted to make sure that they were out there, get acclimated, like either Wednesday late or Thursday morning. Now I don't, people can fact check me on that. I'm not sure, but that's just the thing I saw today was that they didn't arrive till 6:10 on Thursday, and then they played out there. It would have been 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
PM.
Right.
So,
less than 24 hours after they got
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is unless you basically fly out there on Monday and do walkthroughs at the Rose Bowl, which I'm not sure you'd have permission to do so.
Yeah.
To do that
here's
kind of
the
thing.
Here's the observation I've made so far is throw out the Ohio State game because you weren't going to win that game anyway. Ohio State's just too good compared to what you are this year. Iowa State game is an anomaly. I think that was one of those where you should have won that one at the beginning and never have to be talking about that. The other two losses have been on grass fields. And I don't know if there's any correlation to the fact that Iowa's just not used to playing on grass because there's not a lot of grass fields in the Big Ten anymore. But they're 0-2 at this point. And both those games, and you can't blame the grass field for this, but they couldn't tackle very well.
Right.
They just thought they could hit the guy and knock him down. And I don't know how many times they'd hit a guy and he'd bounce off of it for another 5 or 10 yards before they'd bring him down. But you got to wrap up. And I don't know if you're just taking the opponent too lightly or if you're taking to heart, try to cause, force turnovers as much as you can. And you're just trying to get the hard hit and not the wrap up, but you've got to secure the tackle before you ever worry about knocking the ball out. And they're just not doing that. Hey, granted, it didn't help losing Jay Higgins in the first quarter. I know he came back briefly, but wasn't effective. I think he's playing on I think they said a hamstring issue.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help. Brendan Sullivan had a very bad game. I don't know if he got pulled because he was injured. I didn't hear anything about an injury.
Said he had an ankle injury.
Okay. Which makes sense. I mean, I wouldn't go to my fifth string backup walk-on linebacker quarterback that if my number one guy or my only other scholarship quarterback was still available, it would make sense. I mean, even though he had a poor game, he had some good flashes in there. I mean, there were some good moments. That pass to Jacob Gill was a thing of beauty. And,
Yeah, we
had
haven't
that
seen
been,
that.
yeah,
We haven't
had
seen
that
that
been to like a
forever.
Seth Anderson, that was probably a
Yeah.
touchdown.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think he kind of stumbled when he caught it a little bit. That allowed the defender to catch up to him. But yeah, that was a thing of beauty. That was something that we have not seen from an Iowa quarterback in quite a long time, to hit somebody basically in stride like that over a distance. Yeah, I was impressed. It was a nice throw, and it caught the defense off guard. And I would kind of expect at that point then that would open up some running lanes that they were going to have to play Iowa honestly and going to have to guard against the pass. But we found it hard to run.
Yeah, and I think if we go back and we look at those two games that we've lost, the Michigan State and UCLA games, I think you're going to find that they just were quicker than us. They were a fast defense. They played fast. They're not, I wouldn't say that they are a great defense, but they played fast. And our offensive linemen can't handle fast guys off the line. They can't even get out of their stance before those guys are in the backfield. And there was no running lanes for Caleb Johnson to run out of. So
I want to say I think the telling thing about the offensive line was the very, very early on, I think it was even maybe Iowa's first series, when they called a defensive holding on the line defensive line person, one of the tackles maybe. I think what was happening is that when Iowa does the reach blocks on their zone plays, that they have to reach the second level in a relatively quick fashion. They have to brush block and then reach forward to get to the second level. And they were being held up and not able to get to the second level, which when you can get to the second level and you can push the linebacker out of the gap, that allows that running back to hit that gap and be able to run forward. But if you're not able to get to that linebacker to push him out of that gap, that just gives that running back nowhere to run.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times Iowa was either too slow or they were being held back from being able to get to the second level. And I think that made Iowa's offensive line look really poor. But I also think that UCLA was stacking the box to some degree. They were disguising their interior defense, and I think that confused some of the players on Iowa as to they had not seen that before in tape, or if they had, they didn't. They underestimated the speed and ability of the defense.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't give you an excuse not to tackle, on defense either.
That's another situation that, the offense had a poor game because of that. But again, this is a defensive effort that just was not there. I mean, it was there at times. Don't get me wrong. It was there at times. But if you think about the fact that UCLA punted one time and they had they lost 6 to 14 points on turnovers inside the 5-yard line.
Yep. So
that could have been a lot worse than what it was. So it's not like we were stopping them. It was Michigan. I said it. I think I said it to you at that time. I said it's Michigan State all over again. They're doing the things that they shouldn't be able to do, that they haven't been able to do all year, with relative ease against us.
Well, UCLA was the lowest ranked rushing offense in the league.
In the country.
I mean, they were averaging 73 yards a game on offense. And what did they rush for? I didn't even read it. Over 200?
No, I think it was like 170 something.
That's still way too much. I mean, that's more than double what they're usually doing. And to do it against Iowa's defense even makes it more impressive that they actually were able to do it.
Michigan State did the same thing, and Michigan State was like 120th.
Yeah.
In rushing offense. So I don't know. I think it's maybe that, or they just took them too lightly and didn't take it seriously. And we're better than these guys on paper, so we should just be able to roll in here and puff out our chest, and we're going to win.
And maybe the defensive scheme was that, hey, look, they only run for 73 yards. They're going to throw the ball all game. So we need to be cognizant of basically the pass.
Yeah.
And Iowa went through the whole week hearing about how these guys are going to pass. They're going to pass. They're going to pass. That's all they're going to do. Well, all of a sudden, these running lanes come open and they're running the ball. And Iowa's like, it was very unexpected for them. I don't know what the answer is. I'm not in the huddles. I'm not in the defensive backfields to know what everybody's thinking and what, how wide-eyed they look when they're seeing things that they didn't expect. Because obviously they didn't expect that UCLA was going to run the ball on them like this.
And certainly not with a guy that wasn't 100% even. That was a guy that was questionable as to whether he was even going to play.
Yeah.
He was going to be limited.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely. And, but still, even if that's the case, if you planned all week, they're going to run or they're going to throw the ball on us. Halftime adjustments could tell you, well, they're not just throwing the ball on us. We're going to have to stop the run. And it didn't happen.
You wonder by that time if it was too late. They only scored 3 points in the second half.
Yeah.
So,
but we
they did make some adjustments.
And the injuries didn't help.
No.
You had, when Higgins went out, his backup, I believe, is Carson Shire, and he was out. So you drop down to Jaden Harrell, which Jaden Harrell's been in the program long enough that he should be decent. And he played decent. I'm not saying that he played horrible, but he was out of position a few times because he's not been in there enough.
Right.
And, you wonder how that plays in. And, this is another game where I don't want to dog on any one player, but man, some of those guys in the secondary couldn't wrap up, or wouldn't wrap up, I should say. And I think the safety knows who I'm talking about. Wouldn't wrap up. I'm like, you cannot just hit them in the thigh and hope that they'll go down. You have got to wrap them up. Now, yeah, there was a few times he did, but the vast majority of the time he was just putting a shoulder into them and hoping they'd go down. And
yeah,
it just aggravates me to see that. It's like, better, because one thing that people talk about Iowa football is the fundamentals.
Yeah.
They are a great tackling team. They are a sure tackling team. And 2 losses that are inexcusable losses are because you can't tackle. That's inexcusable. And I get that, people are out there with the whole fire Ferentz. Well, okay, you can say that all you want, but he's not out there tackling. Those guys were in position to make the tackles. They just didn't do it. So you can't blame the coach. You can blame a coach for not getting on him enough to make him do it more, but I don't know. That loss was not on Kirk Ferentz's head, in my opinion.
I thought Jacob Gill had a really nice game.
Yes, he did. Best game of his career.
At Iowa.
Actually, I think
his whole career.
I think that was a career game. That was more receiving yards, or as close to as many receiving yards as he's had in his career going into that game.
Yeah.
Well, at least
I like the future
at Northwestern.
With him. Yeah, I like the future with him. He's got another year, and this is going to lead me into a little bit of I'm going to go into a little diatribe here about the quarterbacks. And I want to preface this by saying I understand that we have a off week. Mm-hmm. It's going to give a chance for people to get, much needed, absolutely much needed. It's going to give a chance for people to get healthy again. And I realize that Sullivan hasn't had Lachey really to speak of. He's had Ortworth and Ostringa, the same thing. And he's had Pascuzzi, and Pascuzzi had dropped a pass the other night. It was pretty much right to him. Wouldn't have mattered. It was only a 4-yard pass, but it would have got him, instead of 3rd and 10, it might have got him like a 3rd and 6, which is a little more manageable. But by the same token, I don't want to blame him. I shouldn't blame him. But going forward, if Cade is back healthy from his concussion protocol, and Sully is still available if he's over his ankle tweak, I have a couple of reasons why we don't go back to Cade. Okay. We've got 2 regular season games left after the bye week. At Maryland and home with Nebraska night game. What are we playing for here? We are 6-4. We've already established we're going to a bowl game. Okay. Now, this is more of a rhetorical question, and I don't necessarily need to have an answer from you, but what are we playing for? One, we're playing for pride.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's important. Two, we're playing to stay out of the Pinstripe Bowl because you don't want to go out there when it's cold and icy in a makeshift baseball stadium that's been turned into a football stadium that looks
Yep.
god awful.
Yep.
And you're playing basically for next season.
Mhm.
Now, with that third point that I just made about playing for next season, what advantage does playing Cade McNamara over Brendan Sullivan make? Is there any advantage to that? I can't see any personally.
No.
You roll with who you're going to have next year. Now, I also want to say that Iowa will definitely, and if they don't, they're crazy. They will go out and they will look for a quarterback in the transfer portal. They should. They absolutely should.
Mhm.
And it should be a 100%. We're going to put 2 players out there next year. They're going to fight for the starting job. And it's either going to be Sullivan if he's still here, if he doesn't transfer. I don't know why he would because he's heir apparent at this point. And whoever they get. Hopefully it'll be somebody that's got some ability. But one of the things that I keep hearkening back to, and you can help me with this one. When was the last time we had Iowa, meaning we had a quarterback that developed and improved year after year after year after year? Because the last 4 years, outside of Petrus's very first year, which I thought he did very well starting, it may not have been his freshman year, it might have been his sophomore year. In fact, I think it was his sophomore.
Well, it was also
He had a
the
good
COVID
year. Had a decent year. It was COVID year,
Mhm.
probably, yeah. And then he got steadily worse. And then his senior year, it got to the point where people were just saying, Petrus is a 4-letter word. I hate to say that. He's a good kid. And he's going out and he's out to Utah State and he's doing great things. And good for him. Then you got Deacon Hill comes in. And his very first game that he came in, he spelled Cade when he got hurt. It was at Penn State, I think. He actually
Michigan
played.
State.
Okay, Michigan State. He played pretty well. And then he got steadily worse. And then this year, you bring in Cade, who has a Big Ten championship with Michigan. He has not played well his entire time at Iowa. You can't give me 4 consecutive quarters where you can say Cade McNamara looked like the Cade McNamara that we used to see at Michigan. I haven't seen it. And if you think you've seen it, let me know. I'd like to see the time that you think that he was good at Iowa.
I would agree. And that brings up the point of it's in some cases, some of those guys are system quarterbacks. They're just not built for what we do. And yeah, you think, okay, well, Iowa and Michigan aren't that much different. Well, they are.
Yeah.
And that offensive scheme was way different.
Mm-hmm.
It may look similar on the surface, but the scheme itself is way different. So he's probably just a system quarterback that just this was not the best system for him, which he thought it would. And granted, second year, second offensive coordinator. Take that with a grain of salt. I don't think that was going to really matter one way or the other, but some guys just look better in different systems.
Let's get to the root of this situation. Brian Ferentz was there all the way up till this year. Okay, so he was not a quarterback coach. Everybody knows that. He played offensive line. I don't think he had the detail to help a quarterback along. So I think the quarterbacks at that point, and I know Bud Meyer was in there as a consultant and probably did a little help with them, but they never improved. No one improved, okay? No one got significantly better. The development was just not there. Now, you could go back and say, well, we recruited the wrong players, or the players came in weren't very good to begin with, and so you can't develop somebody that doesn't have the talent. Well, then, we got to recruit better if that's the issue. There's so many things here that if the development isn't there, is it the players or is it the system? We have to figure out what it is. If it's the system, and I realize, don't get me wrong, I understand Tim Lester's only had the 1 year and he is a quarterback coach, and I will give him the benefit of the doubt. But I haven't seen improvement. Now you saw Brendan Sullivan come in, and he's been pretty good He had a step back against UCLA, and I think that might be an issue where I think he just lost a little confidence when he threw that pass over the middle and it got picked off. And then when he ran the ball and got it taken from him, I think that rattled him a little bit. He stumbled. He had some issues then. I think that if you can get him back in and start actually working with him, get his confidence back up, I think he'll be okay. I did like Jackson Stratton when he came in. Basically, like you said, the linebacker that was on the scout team until 2 weeks ago. He provided a nice little lift. I don't think he's the answer. I mean, the stats will tell you that he's not, but we'll give him the bet. I'm for whoever can help Iowa win ball games. If it's Jackson Stratton, put him in there. Get him in there, let him play. I have no problem with that. None. Well, if it's Sullivan, let him play. I'm fine with that too. If it's Cade this year, I'm fine with it, except for I'd really like to see him kind of sit because I'd like to see us build towards next year. But I want to win.
Let me play a little devil's advocate here on one of the things you said when you talked about not recruiting the right guys or not getting good quarterbacks and people saying, well, the quarterbacks aren't good. If you go back and you were to read people's opinions on those quarterbacks when they were recruited and when they signed their letter of intent with Iowa, it was heaps of praise of, oh, this is a great signing. So you don't know. You cannot say, well, the coaches are stupid. They don't know what they're doing. You take a shot and the guy doesn't work out. Yeah. Problem is we've taken shots and they haven't worked out at the one position for several years now. It happens. It happens everywhere. You have guys that just, unless you're an Alabama or an Ohio State or Texas, you don't have potential guys that are coming out of high school that have pro caliber arms and brains on their head that are going to want to go to Iowa. Even if Iowa was Texas Tech in a passing offense. Texas Tech is a great passing offense, but they're still not going to be a playoff team. So quarterbacks are wanting to go to teams that are going to have a chance to win national championships. Right? I mean, am I? So I give a little bit of slack there when it comes to the recruiting because you never know. Guy looks great on paper, looks great in high school, looks great there. You get him on campus and he just doesn't fit your system, or he doesn't work well in your system, or he's just not as good as you thought he was based on his film, based on what your personal scouting was. Or you have guys that were good and then they go get ruined by some quarterbacks coach that doesn't know what he's doing. I think that's part of a little bit of what happened to a couple of these guys. They get into their head of, well, I got to have this quarterback coach to help me do this and this. Just trust your instincts of what's got you where you're at now.
Okay. Let me ask you this. It's going to be a little bit of a trivia question. I want to see if you can answer it or not. Who was the last quarterback at Iowa that was recruited by Iowa that started a football game?
That started at a football game at Iowa?
Yeah, as a quarterback. Who was the last quarterback at Iowa that was recruited to play at Iowa that started a football game?
Petrus.
Yeah. When was that?
2000 or 2020, I mean.
Yeah. Think about that. Think about that.
Well, but
is that an issue?
People have said, oh, well, you've got to go get a quarterback in the transfer portal. What have they done? They've done that. Now, granted, Deacon Hill, I would say that's a swing and a huge miss. Oh, yeah. Somebody's playing a suicide squeeze here in baseball, and I've got to try to put my bat on the ball, and that thing's thrown 15 feet over my head. There's no way I'm going to. But Cade McNamara came off of a Big Ten championship team. You have to assume there's talent there. You've seen it. Didn't work. He's been hurt. Brendan Sullivan, people had said prior to this year when he signed at Iowa, coming out of the transfer portal, he's not the answer. But
here's the deal. You're missing the point. The point is Iowa does not recruit quarterbacks worth a damn, to be honest.
But that's the problem.
Either that or they don't develop them.
But you missed my point of Cade McNamara comes off of a Big Ten championship team that just beat you in the Big Ten title game and looked great doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had
And
an
you
injury.
ruin him?
But you expect him to be back to his old self because you've seen it. So you take that swing, that's a miss. That's not really on poor recruiting. Everybody wanted him.
Okay, I get that.
Every fan wanted that.
But my thing is it's okay to fill in holes with transfer portal guys, and we've done that. But you should have a recruited player that you actually brought in behind him. He shouldn't be the lone and only person that can play quarterback. There should be a recruited player that's sitting behind the starting quarterback, and there should be a recruited player sitting behind the number 2 guy. And there
But
isn't.
here's the problem. The wild, wild west of NIL and transfer portal has taken that out of the realm of possibility because guys want to play now. And if they aren't playing, they know they can just up and leave. And guys
Well, that's
do
true.
that all the time.
I get it, and that's
And
true.
the quarterback is especially that position because you can only have one on the field at a time. It's not like other positions where, I can run 4 wide receivers out there and have guys playing multi. Quarterback, it's if you're the number 1 guy and it's hard to supplant you, the guys sitting behind him are going to sit behind him and be like, I'll go somewhere else where I can play.
Wait their turn.
Well, they don't, but that's just it.
That's the thing. They don't wait their turn. They don't want to wait their turn.
Or
but by the same token, though, you eventually some teams have to have recruiting. They have to have recruits to take over the quarterback position.
Yeah, you've got to stop having recruiting misses like you've had.
Yeah,
but I say, like I said, some of those you as fans, we're looking at them thinking these are great recruits. These are great guys that we want in here, and they don't work out. You can't.
They don't work out, or the system is so bad that they can't work out.
To be seen.
I mean, it's just a trend right now that we bring in all these kids and these quarterbacks, even if it's a transfer, and they just steadily get worse and worse and worse as we go along. They seem like they start out good, and the more that the coaches and the team that plays, the worse they get. And that's the trend right now. And it's as plain as the nose on your face. And I'm not saying that you don't see it because I know you do.
No, I do. But here,
that's a problem. How do we fix it? I don't even know if there's a solution to this.
Look at it this way. Now we've got a different offensive coordinator in. Cade McNamara was not his style of quarterback. That is not going to fit his system anyway. Period. He needs a mobile quarterback. Now, he needs a Brendan Sullivan, but he needs a guy that's better than Brendan Sullivan. That's what they need to be looking for. They need to be looking for, I hate to say it, they need to be looking for the next Brad Banks.
There's only one of those.
We could debate this all day long because there's just no way you can accurately say this guy is going to be a megastar at the quarterback position for our team. Even though he may come in as a 5-star or a 4-star or a high 3-star, you just don't know. There's how many of those guys that have been 5-stars have washed out.
Right.
We had a few of them on the offensive line that were just mega recruits. And I don't know that some of them even ever played. I don't remember Blake Larson really playing much at all.
No.
I mean, he was Dan Doring. I mean, those guys were highly recruited by every Power 5 team and every team with a deep pocket, and they came to Iowa and they didn't work out.
Right.
And is that scheme? At that point in time, Iowa was on a roll. Was it scheme at that point?
No, that was I probably didn't want to work for it.
Yeah. And that's the other thing you've got to really, not everybody wants to come to Iowa. Mm-hmm. Not everybody wants to be in a developmental program.
Be less and less after this year.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah, I want to take people to step back and think about. Just because so and so is available doesn't mean they want to come here. And it's hard to sell a guy on something that they don't want to do. And even you take the money out of the equation. Money is a huge factor right now. Oh, yeah. Take that out of the equation. If you look and say, well, my options are Missouri, Iowa, or Louisville. Which program right now is the highly attractive one to a quarterback?
Well, if it's me
probably
and I haven't
Louisville
seen a lot of
Missouri,
I'm going to take Louisville probably. They're more of
it's not Iowa.
Right. No, I'm not at Iowa at all.
Or you're going to take Missouri because they play in the SEC and you get more exposure. And then if you do well enough, then you maybe transfer to a bigger SEC school. Yeah.
SEC, Big Ten, that's even keel to me.
It's probably going to change a little bit now that there's no East and West. When you had the East and West, and you weren't going to go to Iowa because you didn't play the big boys that often. You didn't get that exposure.
Well, Iowa can't hide behind being in the West anymore, so they're going to have to start figuring it out pretty quick. I saw a stat the other day, and I thought that was kind of interesting. Not counting Iowa's FCS opponent that we played first game of the year. Did you know that Iowa's opponents are combined 45 and 38?
Nope, that's pretty decent. Better than a
But
lot of teams.
You got to remember, you got Ohio State at 8-1, and then the next best one is Iowa State at 7-2.
What's
Everybody
Iowa
else
State's
is either
combined?
6-4, 5-5, or 4-5.
What's the combined for Iowa State's record for schedule?
I have no idea.
I guarantee it's not going to be probably a winning schedule, or if it is, it's barely a 500 schedule.
No,
it's what it is. What it is. Right now they are not. They're a good football team. They're not a great football team, and they're certainly not an elite football team.
No,
which is what we thought they would be. Great to elite is what I figured they would be, based off of their defense, and that's been disappointing.
Yeah, I thought 10-2. In fact, when we went through our season, I thought 10-2 for Iowa. Outside chance at the playoff. Well, when the playoff left, the Big Ten championship game left, and we got bowl eligible. At this point, I'm thinking, what are we playing for? We're playing just to stay out of Pinstripe Bowl and for next season. Let's play players that are going to be next season, because when we go to a bowl game, all these kids are going to opt out. Caleb Johnson, you got 2 games left.
And that sucks.
That's
because you've wasted a great year by Caleb Johnson.
Absolutely.
But
no,
we can, like I said, we can talk about it till the cows come home, but it's not going to change anything. And as much as we want to see or say that they need to recruit a quarterback, we can say it all we want. If they don't do it, they don't do it. That's nothing we can do about that.
I'd really like to see, and I know this is more difficult than what it sounds, but I'd like to see Iowa develop a quarterback. I'd like to see them recruit a kid, keep him happy, keep him here, develop him, and get him in there and let him play, instead of always recruiting or getting a transfer quarterback. Every time the kid's ready to go and he says, I'm ready to take the team, I'm going to run with it, all of a sudden, here comes a transfer quarterback in, and now I'm back to second or third string again.
How would you like to try to recruit a quarterback at Oregon? That's what they've been doing for the last 5 years.
If you can get away with it, that's Oregon,
And they can. I mean, I don't know how they get high school kids to ever commit to play quarterback.
I don't know.
Because they know they're going to get passed over. They're always going to go looking for a guy that's got a 4th or 5th year senior to come in that's been, a preseason Heisman favorite somewhere else the year before, and get you a transfer, because they got the money to do it. They can flash the cash in front of them, and those boys be like, yeah, I'll come out there.
And maybe they could say,
great this year. They're number 1 this year right now.
And maybe they can say, when I go into the transfer portal after my sophomore year, after I've redshirted my freshman year, I can go into the transfer portal and say, I was on Oregon's team.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to be like, wow, you were on Oregon's team? Holy, you must be really good.
I didn't play,
but whatever. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know the answer. I don't know the answer. I wish I knew.
I know it's disappointing, and I know everyone's disappointed.
Yeah.
I don't think next year's going to be a whole lot better.
Inexcusable to lose to UCLA.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't care how well they've been playing. It was inexcusable to lose to them. You are a better team. You should not have lost to them. They hadn't won a game at home here.
Right.
Till Friday.
Friday was their first home win of the year.
Yep. And that's embarrassing to say.
Yep.
Anybody that was trolling Nebraska the week before, I hope you ate crow all weekend this weekend.
Yeah, let's move on from this. I'm getting tired of this conversation. We need to move on to Iowa basketball.
Yeah, let's jump into the men's basketball.
Okay.
2-0 week, a 22-point win over Texas A&M Commerce, and then a 15-point win over Southern, which those that watch the game can tell the kid that announced the game that they are the Jaguars, not the Lions. I don't know how many times he said Lions, and I kept saying Jaguars. Get it right. But
yeah, those are kids that are in broadcasting college, and
that's the point. That's the point. If you're going to be a broadcast person, you better have your facts and you better get things right.
he didn't do that bad. I've seen
No,
worse.
yeah, oh yes, oh yeah. There's been a lot worse, but it was like I'm just an avid fan, and I know that that's the Jaguars, and we play Southern once every millennia.
Yeah. Well, I like to see that he was being basically mentored by
Yes.
Jess Settles. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to help him or not, but um, it sure couldn't hurt him, I guess.
He's better than the Boom Goes the Dynamite guy up in South Dakota or whatever it was that year. Whew,
Yeah.
that was bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, 15-point win over Southern, but that was about a 25-point lead with about a little over 2 minutes to go, and it just kind of felt like the last 2 minutes they just played to get out of there.
Okay, so we've got 2 games under our belt, 2-0, 2 wins. They're consistent at scoring 89 points, that's for sure. Give me your thoughts. Give me your assessments of the Iowa men's basketball team after 2 games.
They're not good.
That's all you got to say? Pretty poignant.
My assessment was probably off. And again, I hope I'm completely wrong. I don't see this as a tournament team. I think this is a team that still doesn't play defense and isn't as good as scoring offense as they have been in years past. That has made up for some defensive deficiencies. They are not a great shooting team, although they did have a better shooting night against Southern. They're not a great shooting team outside of the Sanford brothers. I'm frustrated with a few of the players. I mean, I get Fran's philosophy of positionless basketball, but some of these guys got to understand that at 6'8", 255 pounds, you're not a guard out there shooting 3-pointers. Get your ass down low, put yourself on the block, and start learning some low post moves and be a Draymond Green, you're built to be. Don't stand out there and think that you're going to be the guy that sits there and picks and pops. The best comparison I thought I had was Travion Henderson from Purdue 3-4 years ago. Dembele's built like him. Should be playing like him.
Yeah.
Being a rebounding machine like Reggie Evans was and being able to get putbacks down low. Instead, he's weak on the block. He gets boxed out too easy, and he tries to shoot 3-pointers all the time. That is not the game that you should be playing. You should be playing inside out with that offense to open up Price and Peyton and Josh Dix. Put 2 guys down on the blocks. Put Dembele, put Owen Freeman down there. Let those guys feed the block. If those guys have the moves to make it, do it. If they can't, kick it back out. You're going to have somebody open if they double you. That's how they should be playing. But they're not.
Yeah.
And that's what's frustrating about it is I like Dembele. I like his athletic ability. They need to learn to tell him, play your game, not what you think your game is. That's the frustrating part about it.
Now,
if they could do that, they'd be a better team.
I agree with you
on
that.
I'm not just picking on him. He's not the only one.
No, there's plenty of that to go around. But yeah, I agree with you. He needs to be more aggressive. He needs to be more physically aggressive. But yet he also needs to figure out how to be aggressive without being a fouling machine.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes that's just technique, and that's a little luck sometimes too. Getting the right referees underneath that will allow that kind of aggressiveness without penalizing an aggressive player.
Mm-hmm.
One of my takeaways is that I think Drew Thelwell should be starting.
I agree. I think Brock Harding's better off the bench.
I agree that. I was just going to say that. And I think also part of that too is that I think Thelwell's a little bit longer. He's a little more athletic. And I'm not saying that Brock Harding's not athletic.
Brock Harding
I think
he's 6'3" either.
He's not 6'3". He's not the shooter.
Senior, and he's not a grad senior with 5 years experience under.
And he doesn't play as good at defense as Thelwell does. Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
Bring him in, spell him, but I think Thelwell should start.
Well, think about this.
Price should start.
Go back a couple years ago, 3 years ago. The experiment, or I don't want to say experiment. I think there were some injuries that they pushed Peyton Sanford into the starting lineup, and he wasn't as effective as a starter. Bring him back out, put him back in as a 6th man, and he was far, far, far more effective and far more comfortable. Now, he's a starter, and he's effective and comfortable as a starter. That's
He's
what they need to do
accepted
with
that
Brock.
role. Yeah,
Yeah, that's what they
he's
need to do with
accepted
Brock
that
Harding.
role.
And
Exactly.
I don't know if it's a situation where he's like, I don't start. I don't continue playing here next year. I don't know if that. I'm not starting a rumor or anything. I don't know if that. But there's got to be a reason why he's starting over a 50-year senior. I mean,
Well, he's going to get playing time. It's not an issue of.
yeah.
It's just
They
a
should be
matter
able
of
to split that time.
there should be equal time for both. But I just think that Thelwell offers the best option as far as to start the game out, to set the tone in the game, and just let Brock look at the game for a while and just assess the way things are going. And I think that'll help him a lot more. It's harder sometimes to assess things in the game as opposed to sitting watching the game. Sometimes it's easier to sit and watch the game. Sometimes it's easier to assess it by playing. But I think for him, he might benefit from just coming off the bench.
Well, and here's the other thing is you're not really, it's not like sitting Brock is going to cost you 12 or 14 points a game. You're getting about the same production offensively from both of them. Probably a little bit more from Drew right now. Plus, you've got a better defensive guard who's got more length and has more experience out there.
Yeah.
Again, this is not me trying to dog on Brock Harding.
No.
The kid's got a lot more talent than I've ever had. But it's a situation where I think, and we talked about it in football, where we said when Cade starts to struggle, pull him out, put Sullivan in, let him sit back and see it to where he can come back in. Maybe he can come back in and feel a little bit less pressure on him. Maybe that's what Brock Harding needs, is that he puts too much pressure on himself to be too good at the beginning, and he needs to just come off the bench and just be relaxed. Be the first guy off the bench, whatever. You've seen other guys that have excelled in that. They understand my time to start will come. I'm still getting the same amount of minutes. I'm just not on the court at tip. And I'm helping the team more.
If you ask me, and I know he doesn't do positions, but here's my offense. Here's my starting five.
Okay.
Thelwell at the 1, Dix at the 2, Price Sanford at the 3, Peyton at the 4, and Owen at the 5. That's my starting 5. And I don't know.
I wouldn't disagree with
that. That's to me, that's where we need to be. And I think Dembele can come off as the 7th guy off the bench, Harding 6th guy off the bench, and then or however it plays out the game. If Price gets into trouble, and Koch can come in, he can be 8th, 9th, whatever.
Traore when he gets healthy again. I mean,
right now you have to. Right now I think you have to take advantage of the way Price is playing and get him in there.
Yeah.
Because he's shooting the ball at a high level right now.
He definitely played more effectively when it was him and Peyton at the same time.
Yeah.
The only thing that I would say is I was a little frustrated at times that it seemed to be that they tried to do just a 2-man game most of that, when they were in there together. And you still got 3 other guys that you need to feed that ball to and that are capable as well. I get that Price was hot and Peyton was right on his heels most of the night. But there were times where there was too much 2-man game on one side of the court, and you've got Thelwell or you've got Dix or somebody standing over on the other side with nobody within 15 feet of them because the ball never gets swung. You didn't swing the ball around to the other side of the court, which you talk to or listen to any basketball game. What's one of the things that Robbie Hummel always says is ball movement when you swing the ball around the court creates spaces and creates openings for shooters.
Right. And
we didn't do that at times, and that was frustrating.
Now, one of the things that I thought was a little troubling about the Southern game, did you know Iowa got out-rebounded in that game?
Doesn't surprise me.
And that's Southern.
They're a weak rebounding team.
That's not, we are very weak, and I think that's going to be an issue going forward. I don't think that's going to be something they're going to be able to fix.
This has gone back for a couple of years now.
Yeah. So next game,
that's where I said that you've got to get Dembele's mindset right and say, you know what, learn to rebound, do that. That's your niche right now. Yeah. Then we'll work on the scoring and get some low post moves, and then once you've got those down, okay, then maybe we could start to move you out 10 feet from the basket. But learn to do one thing good first instead of trying to do everything average to below average. And his rebounding is very below average. His positioning is terrible, and he is just. I mean, you've got a 6'8", 255-pound guy who plays like he's 5'3" and 105 pounds, and that can't happen.
No. Next game for Iowa is Tuesday. They play South Dakota. I'm sure it's going to be a Big Ten plus game.
No, it's on the Big Ten Network, I believe.
Oh, is it actually on the Big Ten Network?
I believe it's on the actual BTN.
Okay. Well, that would be good because then I'd like to watch that instead of watching that Big Ten plus jitter.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a frustrating thing to watch.
Yeah, I'll have to watch it from a hotel in Florida. So hopefully that's why I hope it's on BTN.
Well, let's hope it is too. Moving to the women. Do you want to move over to the
sure
women's side of things?
Sure. I'll let you kind of take a little bit more of that because I didn't get a chance to watch as much of today's game as I wanted to.
Well, I will start with the Northern Illinois game. Earlier this week, they played Northern Illinois. They won the game 91-73. I guess Lucy Olson's probably going to be the MVP of a lot of games probably going forward. She's going to be the star. And I think Hannah Stolke will be there too. I think those are the two players. But Tegan Mullaney had a nice game on the other night against Northern Illinois, and I thought Kylie Feuerbach had a really good game. 14 points, 9 boards, 5 assists. She was 4 of 9 from 3. It was a workmanlike effort. They kept them at their basically arm's distance. They kept them away, and they pulled away in the second, third quarters and just kind of held on to it at the fourth. But I think the thing that they were building up to was today's game. And if you had a chance earlier to watch the game, it was on ESPN. Was it on ESPN?
ESPN2.
Okay. Because I had it already selected and it went right to the game for me, so I didn't really even look to see what channel it was on. I thought Iowa played a great game today. Now, I do want to preface this whole thing by saying
Struggled in the second quarter, though.
They did a little bit, but I don't know if you saw this, they had a headline at the beginning of the game that Virginia Tech had lost some players and that they were actually predicted to finish 12th in the ACC. So, yes, it's a nice win, and I'm very proud of the girls the way they played on the road. Of course, it's a neutral site game, obviously. And I think we should be excited about them going forward. I don't think Virginia Tech's a good team, though. I think they'll struggle through the year.
Yeah, if they could have hit some shots, it would have been a lot closer.
But they are a Power 4 conference team, and anytime you can beat somebody like that, it's a good day. And you should always take away and celebrate those wins. Always. I don't care who it is. And the way they did it today was pretty impressive. Yeah, I mean, Virginia Tech lost. They didn't shoot well at all, and Iowa shot decent, not great. But it was a big enough win, 71-52. And if you watched it, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, we'll try to get through it here. And I didn't write anything down for this because we started recording right after the game was over. But I thought Hannah Stolke had a nice game. I thought O'Grady had a great game. Yes. They were feeding her. She was hitting those down low. Tegan Mullaney was a little off today. She didn't hit a 3, I don't think. Nice to see Sydney Falter back in. Did you see Sydney back in? Mm-hmm. She got to play. She hit a 3, big smile on her face, big smile on my face when she hit that, because it was nice to see that she come off that knee injury and was able to hit a 3. Her first couple free throws were a little embarrassing, probably for her. She'd probably admit that. Especially that first one barely even drew iron. Overall, I thought they handled the ball well. They did turn it over 16 plus times. I think it was 16. So there was a lot of turnovers. There's some things that they need to learn. Obviously, every game you should learn something from it, and there's a lot to learn from this. I'd like to see Taylor McCabe get a little more opportunity. I didn't see her she did hit a 3-pointer early on, but I didn't see her in the game a lot towards the end. She sat on the bench a lot, and I was a little disappointed in that. I thought Taylor Stremlow played well. Didn't score a lot, but she was pretty impactful when she was in there. I like the team. I like that they have a lot of development and a lot of growth in them. There's a lot more to their ceiling than what we're seeing. That's the thing that impresses me, is that they've got so much more to go, but they're still good. And, you can have teams that are not good, but, they have a huge way to go to get to where they're at. But this team is good, and they have a lot of
And
ceiling.
they can build on it, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're young.
They are young. They are young. I mean, outside of, obviously Hannah's a junior. Feuerbach and Falter are seniors. Addie O'Grady's a senior. I get it. But the core that's coming, that's going to be playing a lot off the bench is really young. So you're going to see a lot of freshmen playing this year. Tegan Mullaney, Callie Levine, Taylor Stremlow, Ava Hayden, who didn't play a lot today, a little bit. She's going to get better and better and better every game as she sees the competition and understands the speed and the technicalness of the game as far as your footwork and that. She's going to learn all that. May not have been that big a deal when you're in high school, but it's getting to be more and more of a bigger deal as you go forward. I like the team. I like the team. Yeah. They're going to have their bumps. They're going to have issues. They're going to have games where they don't play well, and they're probably not going to have. And they're going to have games when they do play well, and they're going to knock some people off that I think people aren't going to expect. So it's to me, there's a lot to be excited about. That I'll just leave it at that, and we'll see how the rest of the season goes. But I'm happy for where they're at right now.
The one observation I made watching the game today, and I think it's a combination of things. The difference between Jan Jensen's style and Lisa Bluter's style, and I don't want to say that maybe this is maybe less about the styles and more about not having Caitlin Clark, but I noticed that when Iowa got up, 14, 16 points, they started to take the air out of the ball a little bit. And in that fourth quarter, and thought, let's lead this clock a little bit more. That's not something we've been used to over the last 3 years, because I think, and I don't know if that was Lisa saying just play your game, or if it was just Caitlin just being Caitlin wanting to push the pace all the time. But I was kind of refreshing to see him kind of say, I'm going to smother you now, because then that's, you think about the fact that, you held a Power 4 team to 52 points.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good defensive effort.
Yeah. They did play good defense.
And you realize that you only had to score 71. You didn't have to score 90 to win a game. You scored 70. And you won by 19.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's going to be more of what you're going to see out of Jan going forward. And I don't want to say it's like Kirk Ferentz ball where you get a 3-point lead and then you sit on the ball the rest of the thing. But it was refreshing to see them try to bleed some of the shot clock, limit the possessions of, I got a 16-point lead. If I just take some time off the clock, even if I don't score, it's still putting too much pressure on them, because they'd have to basically hit every shot from here on out on every possession. And they weren't. They weren't going to do that.
No.
So it was nice to see. And I think that's what helped them win that by 19, as opposed to
when they were.
Had they kept pushing the pace, that might have been more of a 6 or 8 point game at the end.
Well, or it could have been 25. So it's hard to say. Yeah, it's hard to say. But I was happy with the way that they did kind of come in when they were ahead in the fourth. They like you said, started to kind of take a little bit of air out of it and smother. But I like the fact that they were taking it down to the 3 and 4 or 5 seconds on the shot clock, and just
not
basically
settling for a desperation 3 either.
And
they were still kicking it low. Right,
they were just reducing possessions.
Mm-hmm.
And the less amount of possessions that the other team has, the less chance they have scoring on you.
Yep.
Even if you reduce them by 4 possessions, that's 4 possessions that they aren't going to get
8 to 12 points.
Exactly. Or, that's just speculation. Obviously, they could miss all their shots, but
yeah, right.
Potentially that amount. So, hey, good win. It's something to build on.
Keep it up.
Next game is Wednesday at versus Toledo in Iowa City. I'm not sure what channel that might be, a BTN Plus also, or maybe a BTN Plus.
I don't know. I can look.
So yeah, and then I think they're going to start playing some decent teams. I think they got Drake on the schedule coming up real soon, and I know Iowa State will be on the schedule probably early December. That'll be a knockdown drag-out game with Addy Crooks and that team over there on the other side of in the middle of the state.
That is on the Big Ten Network.
It is
not on BTN Plus.
According to
what I'm looking at. So
okay, good, good. Glad to see that. I don't have a lot else. I'm glad to see them win. I'm excited for the season, like I said before. Do you have anything else? Do you want any off-topic things that you want to talk about?
Not really.
Did you have a good weekend? I know you said you were. Well, you didn't have a good weekend. You said
the only thing that was good about this weekend was Iowa State lost.
Well, and I was going to say you had your kids over on Friday night to watch the game, and did you do the garage thing with the projector?
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
Having the one.
The one come over.
Yeah, the youngest had to work, and
okay.
So his girlfriend came over, and the oldest and his wife stayed home because he had COVID, or was sick. I don't know if it was truly COVID. His mother-in-law had COVID, so they'd been around her, so that was probably a good indication. So yeah, but it was just the three of us in the garage. But yeah, it was a nice time, and it had the heater, the little fireplace heater going in there, and yeah, nice little setup. And I think we'll do it. I can do it more often. I'm more apt to do it more often knowing I can do it in there. So
yeah, you got a little heater set up in there too.
Yeah. I got
a little
infrared heater. Looks like a little fireplace to mantle. I just
nice.
in and I kept it nice and comfortable. It wasn't like warm or toasty or anything, but it was comfortable in there.
Yeah, we'll have to get over sometime when we get somebody that can watch our dogs for us.
Yeah, I just like to get some better chairs than what we had in there. I just had the lawn chairs in there at the time, but get the Adirondack chairs, the cushions in there once the cushions dried out. So yeah, be a good time.
You need to get some secondhand recliners from someplace, and of course you'd have to store them. That's kind of a pain too. But
and I don't have the room.
Yeah, nobody has the room for that.
No. But yeah, it was a good time.
Good.
Wish we had a better outcome, but it happens.
Yeah, two teams come and play. Only one's going to win.
Yeah.
And you hope it's yours, and not always going to happen.
Back in the 80s, that wasn't necessarily the case. Two teams could tie.
Not anymore.
I'm so glad that we don't have that anymore, though.
I am too. Yeah.
But yeah. So let's wrap up on a question of the week. Instead of the traditional question of the week this week, let's do something a little bit different. I would like to hear our listeners' predictions on the Iowa men's basketball team's projection, what they think. Give us your overall record or your Big Ten record. Where do you think they're going to fit in the Big Ten? You don't have to say, well, I think they're going to be, I don't know, playing 20 games. They're going to be 12-8, and you can say, I think they're going to finish 12th in the conference. I'm fine with that. Let us know if you think they're going to make the NIT or the NCAA or nothing. We just want to hear what you guys think. My prediction right now, I'll give you the prediction next week after this week. I don't want to
influence
anybody else's options there. So
yeah.
But yeah, that's what we want to do. We want to just see what you guys think their record will be, or where you think they'll finish in the conference at the end of the year, and what their postseason outlook is going to look like.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. So make sure you guys comment on what you think, how you think the men's basketball team is going to do. And
here on YouTube, or you can do that on Twitter. You can also do it on Facebook. We do have some, if you want to comment it on the TikTok videos too, I'll maybe throw that one out there as well. Anywhere you want to put it, get on record and let us know. Also, we will be having our merch store open probably this week. More than likely, you'll see a QR code coming up here shortly at the end of this video. I might throw it at the beginning as well. I haven't decided yet. But I might going forward. I'll probably have it beginning, middle, and end, so that there's 3 options. And, you can always pause your screen and take a shot with your camera and open up. It'll just take you directly to our merch store website. I'm going to be doing some revamping of some of the merchandise there, because I'm just not a huge fan of some of the designs that I've got on there, and I want to redo them a little bit. So if you want to wait till the 18th, there's going to be a 10% sale starting the 18th going through Christmas. So
there you go. Get some Christmas swag. Yeah,
just a little bit of a early warning or early Christmas present there for you.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I don't have much else. I do like the question of the week. What's that?
Yeah. Off week for the football team. Much needed week of rest. Get them healthy. Let's get back there and let's win the last 2. And let's win the last 2 and prevent Nebraska from going to a bowl game. How about that?
I like it.
I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So, all right. Let's finish off with Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.